Responsive web design. Responsive design completely changed the web. Before this, companies often built two different websites, one for desktop and a stripped-down version for mobile, usually with an M in the URL like m.facebook.com. Developers had to maintain both sites, which was clunky and inconsistent. As smartphones and tablets exploded in the late 2000s, that approach didn't scale. You couldn't build a new version for every screen size. Responsive design solved this by letting one website automatically adapt to any screen size. Text, images, and layouts flex to fit whether you're on a huge monitor, a laptop, or a phone. The breakthrough came in 2010 when Ethan Marcotte published his article in A List Apart, coining the term. Fluid grids, flexible images, and media queries became the new standard almost overnight. By 2016, mobile browsing overtook desktop. Without responsive design, the web would have fractured into unusable pieces. Today, it's not a trend, but it's the baseline. Skeuomorphism into flat design. In the early 2000s, interfaces tried to mimic the real world. Buttons looked like 3D plastic, calendars had leather stitching, and notepads had paper textures. That was skeuomorphism, making digital feel familiar. But in 2013, Apple's iOS 7 dropped all of that. It introduced flat design, clean, minimal, geometric, no shadows, no gloss, just pure function. While Microsoft's Metro UI had started this push a few years earlier, Apple's high-profile move was a turning point. Flat design modernized the web. Designers adopted it because as users became more digitally savvy, the real-world metaphors weren't needed anymore. Plus, flat design was more efficient, scalable, and looked sleeker in a mobile-first world. It set the visual language we still use today. Minimalism. Minimalism is about stripping away the unnecessary, using white space, simple layouts, and focusing only on what matters. Its roots go back to Bauhaus design in the 1920s and Japanese Zen aesthetics, both of which valued simplicity and function over decoration. On the web, minimalism rose as a response to the clutter of the early 2000s, flashing banners, pop-ups, and overloaded homepages. Designers began stripping things back, letting content and usability take center stage. Apple became a leader here, using product-focused homepages where the design disappeared so the product could shine. Then, in the 2010s, flat design gave minimalism new momentum. By removing textures, shadows, and unnecessary details, flat design pushed minimalism into the mainstream of web and app design. Minimalism transformed the web from noisy and chaotic into something more usable and timeless. Grid and CSS layout systems. In the early days, websites were hacked together with tables and frames to create layouts. It was messy and inflexible. Then came frameworks like 960.js and Bootstrap in the late 2000s, which gave designers modular grid systems to build cleaner, more consistent layouts. Later in the 2010s, CSS Flexbox and Grid gave developers native tools to control spacing, alignment, and complex layouts without hacks. Grids gave the web balance and rhythm. They made responsive design scalable and turned chaotic layouts into structured, professional systems. Today, every polished site relies on grids in some form. Accessibility standard. For years, accessibility was an afterthought, with tiny fonts, low contrast colors, and broken screen reader support. But as awareness grew and standards like Web Content Accessibility Guidelines became law in many countries, accessibility shifted from optional to essential. One practical example is text contrast. WCAG requires normal text to meet at least a 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio against its background, and large text to meet 3 to 1. This simple rule ensures people with low vision or color blindness can still read comfortably. Accessibility isn't just compliance, it's inclusion. It ensures the web works for people with disabilities, while also improving usability for everyone. This trend reframed design from looking good to working for all. Microinteractions. Microinteractions are the tiny details that make digital experiences feel alive. Like a heart icon that bursts when you like a post, or a button that ripples when tapped. The idea was formalized by designer Dan Saffer in his 2013 book, Microinteractions, where he explained how small details can improve usability and delight. They aren't just decoration. Microinteractions give feedback, reduce uncertainty, and guide users, like a loading spinner showing progress, or a password meter confirming strength. These subtle touches turn functional interfaces into experiences that feel polished, human, and even fun. Parallax scrolling. Parallax scrolling creates a layered effect. Backgrounds move slower than the foreground, producing a 3D illusion as you scroll. The technique came from video games in the 1980s, like Moon Patrol, but entered web design in the early 2010s with HTML5 and CSS3. Parallax made scrolling immersive. Suddenly, pages could tell stories as you moved down them. While it was often overused, it proved that web design wasn't just static. It could be narrative and cinematic. Brutalism. Around 2014, some designers rebelled against glossy minimalism with brutalist web design. Inspired by brutalist architecture, these sites looked raw and unrefined. Think clashing colors, oversized text, and layouts that feel almost broken on purpose. Against the sleek, polished web, brutalism stood out by being messy and bold. Brutalism wasn't just rebellion for the sake of it. Many brands used it to express authenticity, boldness, or counterculture values, especially in fashion, art, and media. It showed that web design could be as much about brand personality as usability. Infinite scrolling. Infinite scroll is when content keeps loading as you swipe, instead of stopping at a next page button. The idea first appeared in the mid-2000s when designer Aza Raskin explored ways to reduce the friction of clicking through pages. But it was social media that supercharged it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and later TikTok all adopted infinite scrolling to keep users engaged. Every swipe brings fresh content, delivering small dopamine hits that make it hard to stop. Infinite scrolling rewired how we interact with the web. It turned feeds into bottomless pits of content, keeping people on apps for hours. But there's a dark side. It fuels brain rot, shortening attention spans and making it easy to lose whole evenings to endless swiping. Card-based design. Cards are bite-sized containers of content. An image, a title, maybe a short description, all wrapped neatly in a box. Pinterest popularized the style around 2010, and Google now helped push it into mainstream web and app design. The idea comes from Swiss modular design, where information is broken into clear, repeatable units. Cards made content easy to scan, organize, and rearrange. They were perfect for mobile screens, where space is limited. Today, almost every app, from e-commerce stores to dashboards, relies on card layouts. So there you have it, 10 trends that literally rewired the internet. But here's the thing. Design never stops evolving. Part 2 is coming with glassmorphism, dark mode, and the trends shaping 2026. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.